Answered in kind. 91. The shadow of performed masculinity. Don't drop your grain of salt. You need that so you can think for yourself. I explore these topics for my own intrigue. There is a pattern present across many modern expressions of masculinity among coaches, mentors, trainers, influencers, and those who seek identity in polished images of strength. This pattern is subtle, yet pervasive. Many of these men speak in confident tones, with declarations about the nature of women and the requirements of relationships. They speak of loyalty, submission, control, and boundaries in ways that can appear authoritative, yet beneath this strong exterior lies something far more fragile, far more human, and far more universal. It is not aggression, it is not arrogance, it is not cruelty. The deeper layer is uncertainty, the quiet kind, the internal kind, inherited from generations who never had the space nor the invitation to understand themselves more fully. Historically, men were rarely taught to explore their emotional world. In many families, feelings were something to be pushed down, managed privately, or disguised behind work and stoicism. Vulnerability was often equated with weakness. Sensitivity was discouraged. Emotional expression was policed. Over centuries, this created a cultural landscape where men were expected to be strong in a very particular way. Externally strong, visibly strong, unshakably strong. Yet, strength that is only outer strength becomes a kind of armor, and armor is not identity. Armor is protection. Underneath that armor, many men learned to associate stability with control, certainty with dominance, and peace with the absence of emotional complexity. This is not a moral failure. It is simply the result of what was modeled to them. When emotional self-awareness is never taught, a person may rely on external structures to create the sense of safety that internal understanding would normally provide. So when some men insist that their partners must not speak to other men, or must limit their social interactions, or must follow strict rules in order to maintain the relationship, this does not always arise from a deliberate desire to dominate. Often, it arises from a deeply human attempt to feel secure, an attempt shaped by inherited beliefs about what makes a relationship safe. The challenge arises not from the intention, but from the method. Control can create compliance, but it cannot create connection. Restriction can create stillness, but it cannot create trust. When someone feels unsure about their own emotional grounding, they may seek to regulate their external world instead of cultivating inner steadiness. This is a common pattern across humans of all genders, but it manifests in particular ways within the cultural pressures placed upon men. Many have been taught that the measure of their worth lies in their ability to command their environment. And if that environment includes a relationship, the pressure to manage it can become overwhelming. But such management is ultimately unsustainable. Love does not flourish in the soil of restriction. Partnership cannot deepen where freedom is feared. It is also worth examining why some men gravitate toward partners who fit into specific molds. Women who appear submissive, agreeable, compliant, or eager to be guided. This pattern does not mean such women are inherently manipulative or insincere. Rather, many of them have inherited their own generational strategies of survival. For centuries, women lived in systems where speaking openly, asserting autonomy, or revealing their full interior life could be dangerous. In some eras, it was not merely frowned upon, it was punishable. Families taught daughters how to stay safe by being quiet, gentle, unprovocative, or accommodating. Entire lineages learned that thriving required subtlety, intuition, and a careful reading of their partner's emotional landscape. What one might label as calculation today may be the softened echo of what was once necessary for survival. These patterns form the unseen backdrop of modern relationships. Men inheriting the armor, women inheriting the quietness. Both navigating emotional worlds with tools forged before they were born. This creates dynamics where both partners may be acting from inherited scripts, rather than from conscious choice. A man may believe he must maintain constant control to prevent instability. A woman may believe she must remain pleasing to prevent conflict. And when both believe they are simply being good partners, a subtle tension arises because neither is acting from the fullness of themselves. This is not merely psychological. It is spiritual. It is generational. It is archetypal. Humanity is now living through a transitional era where old relational structures are dissolving. People are beginning to question long-held assumptions about gender, roles, and intimacy. Many are discovering that love grounded in hierarchy or control cannot satisfy the deeper human need for connection and mutual understanding. But transitions create friction, and in this friction, misunderstandings arise. Men attempting to follow what they were taught may not understand why it no longer works. Women attempting to step into fuller authenticity may fear what will happen if they break old patterns. Both may misinterpret the other's intentions. Both may feel unseen. A man may interpret emotional expression as instability simply because he was never taught to interpret emotions as information. A woman may interpret emotional withdrawal as rejection simply because she was never taught that some people retreat in order to regulate themselves. Both may feel that the relationship is under threat, not from malice, but from misunderstanding. In relationships where emotional literacy is low on both sides, conflicts can escalate quickly. When emotions finally surface after months or years of suppression, neither person knows how to navigate them. The tension becomes overwhelming. Old patterns take over. Each partner may feel betrayed by the other's reactions, but beneath the surface, the truth often remains the same. Neither partner was given the tools. Both inherited emotional languages from ancestors who were themselves struggling. No one taught them how to soften without collapsing. No one taught them how to listen without defending. No one taught them that connection requires presence, not performance. This is why relationships built on external performance eventually strain. If love is to deepen, it must be rooted in authenticity. Authenticity requires transparency. Transparency requires trust, and trust requires emotional maturity. None of these qualities can be substituted with dominance, obedience, or rigid roles. And in the midst of these dynamics, a curious phenomenon emerges. People who are grounded, emotionally aware, or spiritually centered often find that they rarely engage in these old scripts. Not because they reject people, but because the frequency of their presence naturally shifts the interaction. Those who rely on performative roles often instinctively recognize when someone is not susceptible to that dynamic, and without animosity, they simply do not approach deeper engagement. It is not a matter of superiority, it is a matter of resonance. People tend to gravitate toward relationships that mirror their current emotional development. Those seeking control seek those willing to relinquish it. Those seeking clarity seek those who can offer it. Energetically, relational patterns attract their complement. Spiritually, this is understood as alignment. Psychologically, it is called pattern compatibility. Either way, the result is the same. Relationships form according to the inner world of each partner, even when neither fully understands why. As society evolves, many of these patterns are being questioned for the first time in centuries. Men are beginning to explore what it means to be emotionally aware without losing their sense of identity. Women are beginning to ask what it means to speak honestly without fear of conflict. Both are discovering that true relational strength does not emerge from dominance or submission, but from mutual presence. Some people welcome this evolution. Others feel threatened by it. For those who have relied on clear, rigid gender roles to feel stable, the loosening of these structures can feel like the ground is shifting beneath them. They may cling to older ideas of masculinity because those ideas once provided predictability. They may feel unsure how to navigate a world where emotional intelligence is valued as highly as physical strength or financial achievement. This does not make them less capable of love. It makes them unfamiliar with the new terrain. In this sense, the spiritual task of our era involves not only personal growth, but generational healing. It requires acknowledging how deeply our relational habits are shaped by those who came before us. It requires the willingness to sit with discomfort, to question inherited beliefs, to learn new emotional languages, and to embrace the idea that intimacy is not built through control, but through understanding. There is a kind of strength emerging now that integrates gentleness with resilience, insight with action, openness with boundaries. This is a different form of masculinity, not the opposite of strength, but the evolution of it. A strength that is not threatened by another's autonomy, a strength that does not require strict hierarchy, a strength that sees emotional expression not as chaos, but as information. A strength that understands love as a space where both partners can be fully themselves. This does not mean abandoning all structure. It means rooting structure in mutual respect rather than fear. As these patterns shift, the potential for relationships becomes richer, deeper, more expansive. No longer limited to roles, relationships can be grounded in authenticity and presence. Some will continue following old scripts because those scripts offer a sense of identity, community, and direction. Others will begin exploring new ways of understanding themselves and their partners. Both paths exist simultaneously for now, because humanity rarely changes all at once. But, over time, the quieter, more emotionally grounded version of masculinity will likely become the norm. Not because it is fashionable, but because it supports healthier connection. Relationships built on genuine emotional presence tend to endure. Relationships built on control or pretense tend to falter when challenged. As more people witness this through lived experience, they begin seeking what is real, not what is prescribed. And in this movement, the collective shadow begins to lift. Men are not the enemy. Women are not the correction. Both are the inheritors of patterns far older than themselves. The true work lies in recognizing these inherited narratives and choosing, piece by piece, to step beyond them. When this happens, even in one individual, the entire relational landscape begins to shift. Conversations become more thoughtful. Conflicts become more navigable. Boundaries become clearer. Fear loosens its grip. Freedom becomes less threatening. Truth becomes more possible. The world is changing, not through confrontation, but through awareness. Not through accusation, but through understanding. Not through force, but through presence. And as this presence spreads, the patterns that once defined love and partnership begin to transform. Something more spacious, more compassionate, more deeply human emerges. A new way of relating begins to take root. One that honors strength and sensitivity, structure and flexibility, independence and intimacy. A way of relating where neither partner must shrink, disguise, control, or perform. A way of relating where both can meet each other as whole beings, not archetypes. This is the unfolding direction of human relationships. Not perfect, not immediate, but inevitable, as all things rooted in truth eventually are.